experiences as a coach and how that can relate to business. And the Do Right series, he starts out talking about, I wanted to write out all these goals that I wanted to accomplish, and then I set out to do it. That made so much sense to me that I sat down right while I'm watching this and I started writing my goals out, wrote out 115 things that I wanted to do.
Really?
Yes, yes. Now, one of them was,
I was going to ask if you could recall three of them that you could just share real quick.
yeah, one of them was to meet Lou Holtz, and one of them was to work with Lou Holtz.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is where it gets really cool. I'm sending these resumes because I had written down these goals that I wanted to work for this guy. And I'd always get these letters back to him, thank you, but no thank you. I've got a full staff. I'm sure you're a great coach, but I just don't have the runner. You want to be a billionaire one day? Hang out with billionaires, find out how they do it. I had a young guy, Ken, a few years ago. In fact, when I spoke down in Miami, I was telling you about that. But I was speaking down there, and this young guy comes up to me afterwards, and he was about 25. He says, Robby, he says, when I turn 30, I'd like to be a millionaire. And when I'm 40, I'd like to be a billionaire. Can you give me any advice? And so I said, sure, I can give you some advice. I said, you got to do what billionaires do. He said, what's that? I said, well, you got to wake up at 4 o'clock every morning. I said, and when you wake up, I said, pray, read, whatever you got to do, go work out, make sure that you're in the office by 7:30 in the morning, work until about 12 at midnight. And when you're done, sleep. The school was ordered to pay me restitution in the form of a financial settlement and a joint press conference where we all came back, and it says the lies in there, where everything was put out on the table, and they had to come clean that I had done things the right way and that we wished everybody well, and then we went on our separate ways. And then literally 2 hours later is when I announced I was running for president for the first time.
Wow. Do you think I would have been connected?
Say again?
Do you think that would have happened?
It would have. I would have gotten into politics, yeah, by now. It may have hadn't have happened right then. I may have waited about 4 or 5 years. But
that 4 or 5 years could have cost you the experiences of what you're doing to keeping. Welcome to the Dr. Smiley Show. Very excited to have Robby Wells, amazing leader, a coach, a person who's run for president, and someone determined to make not only America a better country, but also wake people up that they can make it great too. So he gave me his book recently at a wonderful event, Global Women. It was the 8th annual event, and it was in Las Vegas, and I got to meet him. And I said, is there a mirror over here? I didn't see a mirror in the casino. And we hit it off right away. So, Robby, welcome to the Dr. Smiley Show.
Ken, it's great to be here. It's great to be able to speak with you and with everyone else that's going to be listening in on your show.
Well, I know that you recently did the Authathon, and I'm glad you're part of that. I just want to say the Baldathon's coming up, and I think you're going to be one of the influencers and leaders in that as well. Is that correct?
Well, I tell you what, if I was left out of that, I'd really feel slighted. So I would hope that I'd be a part of that.
Well, you told me very vulnerably and very quickly as I met you, you said, this bald haircut was not necessarily a choice. And so if you want, you can share with the audience that fun story. I thought that was really good.
So this is really, really true. This happened. I was wearing my hair as a flat top, and I did that from college on. And my hair grew fast. So every 2 weeks I was having to get a haircut. And I was just a young college kid. $12 every time you go get a haircut as a college kid is $24 a month when you're getting it cut twice a week or twice a month.
Can I cut in and just say that's old time fees? That's more like $24 to $40 now. Money.
Now, exactly. So either way, that's money that could have been in my pocket to take out my beautiful girlfriend at the time. Her name was Greta. Oh, she was pretty. So anyway, back to the story. I decided I was going to go get some clippers and learn how to cut my own hair. And I could use the mirror holding right here, and I'd look at the one there, and I could even do the back, and it was perfect. So I did that for years. And then about 7 years after graduating college, I was coaching at the University of South Carolina. It was the off season. A bunch of the coaches were going to go down to the beach for the weekend. So I was in the coach's locker room. I'm shaving my head up real good with my clippers, the whole 9 yards. Somebody comes around the corner, scares me, and I scalp myself right there, that one spot. And I mean, it was you could see the skin. I was like, oh no, what am I going to go do? I'm going to the beach. I'll be the laughing stock. I said, the only thing I can do is just take it all off. So I did. I took it all off, shaved it, went bald, went to the beach, lay down on the beach, got a tan like everybody does. When I came back, everybody was like, oh my gosh, that's your look. Yeah. And I started thinking about it. Okay. And it really has. It's kind of become my signature look. And it's been going on since literally the year 2000.
That's so cool. You know, normally the show doesn't start this way, but since our conversation started that way, I decided to have the show start that way. But
Sure.
it's interesting that when you see someone that resembles who you are being in the world, that's one thing. When they look a little like you're being in the world, but I've noticed this. It's a crazy thing when you see bald speakers, influencers, leaders. There's just this clean, like I know what I'm doing. I'm focused, and not necessarily get out of my way, but you can come with me, or you're going to be in my way.
Well, here's the thing about being bald, there's nowhere to hide.
No, there's no. Well, you got a great smile, you got a great haircut, and I'm excited to have you both in the Authon and the Baldathon. But let's have people find out about that New York accent of yours, or no, it's more of a United Kingdom accent, right?
Well, I don't know what you would call it. I grew up in the South. I grew up in the deep South. I was adopted at 6 weeks old into the state of Georgia by a minister and his wife, and we lived in Georgia. My father not only was he a minister, but he was also into politics, and he actually worked with one of our former presidents, and
Really?
That was Jimmy Carter. And when Jimmy was the governor of Georgia, my father sat on a few committees with Governor Carter overseeing it. And one of the committees my father actually chaired was over the special needs kids in the state of Georgia. And it was a great fit because my older sister was special needs. So at a very young age, I saw Jimmy Carter when I was just 8 years old become president of the United States. And
Hmm.
I can remember Ken just like it was yesterday. I was in his home in Plains, Georgia, and my family was there. It was just a few days before the election, and President Carter, and then at that time, Governor Carter came in, and he probably should have been on the road campaigning, but he was home. And I remember looking up at him as an 8 year old kid, and I said, "You're going to be the president of the United States." And he looked down at me and he pointed at me and says, "One day you will be too."
Really?
Yeah. And so just a few days later, that evening, we're watching the news, Walter Cronkite, the whole deal. And of course, he's named president. And I remember running around the house and I was shouting and screaming. And I was happy that he won, yes, but I was also happy that not only did he win, but he had said I was going to be president. So I knew if he could do it, I could do it one day. And so here I am many years later, and I've pursued it a couple of times, and we're going to make a decision pretty soon if we're going to do it again in 2028.
That's awesome. Uh, I'm not just saying this. I think Jimmy Carter was the real deal. I think he was not just a great president for our country, but he was what a philanthropic, heart-centered leader should be to be a president.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. Habitat for Humanity. How many people were affected by that in a positive way? I mean, you're talking about a true humanitarian that probably did more for this country outside of the Oval Office.
Yes.
Yeah, he probably did.
Well, not just that. I mean, I'm sure everyone's got their problems, but it was almost like he was scandalous. He just nothing could touch him from being an integral force,
Right,
being a
right.
leader.
And he really was. We can look back on some of his policies and maybe we differ in that, and maybe we disagree with some of the things that he did, but I'm pretty sure that most anybody that knows anything about him would all agree this guy, his character was solid,
Yeah,
and he had true character and he had true integrity.
no doubt.
Okay, character is doing what's right when it's not popular. Integrity is doing what's right when nobody's watching,
That's right.
and that was Jimmy Carter.
Almost reversed too, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, almost.
Almost. Because I mean, if you have great character, you don't really care if people are watching either.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So I mean, your point is solid though. I mean, he was a man that if you learn from him how to be honest, you're learning the great lesson.
Correct.
So let's talk more about you. What was I get where you're raised, and I get that you're a Georgia boy, but and I get also the influence of President Carter, past President Carter had on you. What else was there? Anything else that happened in your childhood that caused you to step up and want to rise up, as it were? Because I see your shirt says "Rise Up."
It does say rise up. Yeah. My father being a minister, we moved every now and then. It's kind of like military. Every 4 or 5 years, you go into a different church. So uh, we actually moved to Alabama. And
Hmm.
believe it or my dad had just been working with Jimmy Carter, and then we moved to George Wallace's hometown, who was the governor of Alabama, and he had also run for president. And so I actually had a relationship built with Governor Wallace as well. I like Jimmy Carter better, just my humble opinion. But I mean, they both had their good points. Only one of them had some bad points, in my humble opinion. but but yeah, they both were inspiring to watch. It was really inspiring to watch Governor Wallace actually govern the state of Alabama from a wheelchair. And
Hmm.
I said, well, here's a guy, and I could actually relate to that because when I was young, I had braces on my legs because my legs were not straight. So
Hmm.
kind of like Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was a kid, same thing. But yeah, it did. It inspired me as a kid to see that even though he had had the adversity of being shot and being put in the wheelchair for the rest of his life, that he didn't let it deter him from actually continuing to be a major influence and a major player in the state of Alabama, really for the entire country.
There's so many points that you're making that signify why. And I said, please do not change into a suit. I want this message to be in people's eyes
Sure.
and in their thoughts. So you've had a rise up mentality since you were young.
Since I was a baby. Yeah, absolutely. And watching my sister was born with all sorts of problems. She had the mental capacity, her even in her adult life of only having a vocabulary of a 2 year old. She was born blind. She was born partially deaf, and mentally she had a lot of issues. But even with all those problems, she could sit down at a piano and she could tear it up. She could play, and that always amazed me too. It's almost like God from up above looks down at all of us and he says, "Okay, this person right here, they're lacking on this area, so I'm going to make sure they can do this. This person's lacking here." And I saw it all the time when I was coaching. I'd see players that maybe their father wasn't, and a lot of the players, their fathers were not in the home, and us coaches were like their dads. Okay, so when you're put in that position, if you're really in it for the right reason, I mean, that's a serious deal. And when I looked at some of those players that didn't have parents in their homes, but yet they were great athletes, it's almost like God looked down and says, okay, they don't have the parents, but I'm going to make them a great athlete so they can go and they can do some really cool things this way. Or maybe this person over here, they're not as athletic, but I'm going to make them so smart that they're going to come up with a cure for cancer. Follow me?
I do. I not only follow you, I'm getting ready to honor you. So,
Okay.
so first of all, you bring up sports and winning mentality, coaching
Right.
comes to mind, obviously. Before we go there, I just want to show people when I first met you,
That's me.
that's you. And I look forward to meeting you again and again because I would like a better background on it. But what a gorgeous smile! And then I wanted to actually make a segue to one of both of our heroes, and someone mentioned your book.
Yeah, there's Coach Holtz.
Yeah, the most winningest college coach, and what a speaker too. I mean, he is.
It is so funny. So if you were going to ask me one of my favorite books of all time, it was going to be Winning Every Day by Lou Holtz. And that's another story that we can get into about how I actually worked for him and how that came about. I'm one of these, I
This is
truly
the time.
believe that, huh? We got time?
No, we not only do we have time. This is the time. I think it's a great segue for that. That's why I brought
Well,
it in.
Well, let me tell you, I was a young coach. I had just finished playing and football at Furman University. Got my uh, bachelor's degree there. We won the national championship my junior year, 1988. And that same year, and that was one double A football. That's what they called it back then.
Hmm.
Now, and that same year, the big Division One schools, it was Notre Dame that won, and Notre Dame was the run by Lou Holtz. He was the head coach. So I started my coaching career the next couple of years. I'm at Greer High School, one of the best programs in the upstate of South Carolina. And so every year I'd send Coach Holtz a resume because I wanted to coach college football. And I'd say, "Dear Coach Holtz, I'd love to be a part of your staff, this, that, and the other." And actually, the head coach there at Greer had come in with a video one day and he said, "I want you to look at this and analyze it." And I was real good at breaking down film on the opponent. So that's what I thought it was. And then I plug it in. It's the Do Right series by Lou Holtz. And it's geared for businesses, but he's talking about his experiences as a coach and how that can relate to business. And the Do Right series, he starts out talking about, I wanted to write out all these goals that I wanted to accomplish, and then I set out to do it. That made so much sense to me that I sat down right while I'm watching this and I started writing my goals out, wrote out 115 things that I wanted to do.
Really?
Yes, yes. Now, one of them was,
I was going to ask if you recall three of them that you could just share real quick.
yeah, one of them was to meet Lou Holtz, and one of them was to work with Lou Holtz.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is where it gets really cool. I'm sending these resumes because I had written down these goals that I wanted to work for this guy. And I'd always get these letters back to him, thank you, but no thank you. I've got a full staff. I'm sure you're a great coach, but I just don't have the room. So anyway, fast forward a few more years, 1994, we win the state championship at Greer High School, go undefeated, one of the best teams to ever play in South Carolina football, in their history of South Carolina high school football. So anyway, after that season, all the schools that are looking for coaches, they go to the schools that have winning seasons like that. So I got the head coaching job at C.E. Murray High School, and people thought I was nuts to take it. And here's why. It was the smallest high school in the state of South Carolina. I was only 27 years old, which means I was the youngest head coach in the state of South Carolina. And they had not had a winning season. Well, they had one winning season in the history of their program. And I was going to be the only white person on the team. The entire team was black. My coaches, the entire coaching staff, the entire team was black. I didn't see myself as a white guy. I saw myself as a football coach. I just wanted to go win some games and influence some young people in a positive way. So people thought I was nuts to take it. I ended up taking that job. The 2 years I was there, we won both years. Went deep in the playoffs that second year. Went to low state semifinals. And then from that very small school, the smallest school in the state of South Carolina, I ended up getting hired to coach at the University of South Carolina with the Gamecocks in the SEC, playing in the SEC against Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, all the big schools. And I went from this little bitty school to doing that. And now people aren't thinking I'm crazy anymore. Okay. So I was coaching, and the head coach there, his name was Brad Scott. He was there for 2 seasons. Now, at the end of that second season, we didn't do very well, and he got fired. And so they were going to bring somebody new in. Well, the talk was it was going to be Lou Holtz. And so I was actually on the road recruiting, but I was telling all the old coaches, listen, if you don't want to get fired when the new coach gets in here, here's what you need to do. I actually met with them. And I said, when you meet with him for the first time, you better show up in a suit and tie. And the reason I knew that is because when I went back to that video, that Do Right video, there he is having a staff meeting with his coaches, and they're all in a coat and ties. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this man's all about business. So I told every one of those coaches that. Do you know that only 3 of us got hired from that staff, that carryover staff, myself and 2 other guys. Myself and those other 2 guys wore suits in when we met with Coach Holtz. The other guys did not. They just wore like golf shirts and khakis, and they were all fired immediately and let go. I knew. So anyway, I remember like yesterday, the first time I met with him, and I sat down. He says, "You're one of the grad assistants." I said, "Yes, sir, I am." I said, "But I'm an older grad assistant." I said, "I've been a high school head coach," and I gave him my history and everything. He says, "I can tell you mean business. You got on coat and tie." I said, "Well, coach, you may not remember this." I said, "Because I'm sure you get hundreds and thousands of letters." I said, "But I wrote you every year." I said, "When I was coaching high school ball, wanting to be a part of your staff. And I got the nice thank you, but no thank you letter." I said, "Because I wanted to come work for you." And you know what he said to me? He says, "Well, it ended up working out. I came to you, didn't I?" So that was his way of saying I was hired.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. He is one of the most dynamic speakers I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Which magic trick did he do when you saw him?
I wish I could remember. He had so many great stories. I'm going to tell you the one I remember. Okay.
Yeah.
He said that there was this one guy, they never lost a game when they put him in. And he says, but of course, we only put him in when we were about 3 or 4 touchdowns ahead.
That was probably his son Skip. His son Skip was a walk-on quarterback.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I don't know if it was that guy, but it could have been. But it was just such a funny story. He just built it up as, well, I mean, I was a great coach, and we knew when to put certain people in. And when we put this one guy in, we just never lost.
Never lost.
Of course.
That's right.
Yeah, he was a hoot. He was a hoot. Well, tell me the magic trick you're referring to that you like.
Well, he did several. I haven't done it in a while, but I could do the rope trick where he took the 3 ropes, he cut them, and then he makes them all the
Yeah.
same length, and then he goes back and then they're different lengths. Remember
Right.
that?
I do. I do.
That's a good little trick. Now I could do that trick. I can't, but I couldn't ever figure out the one where he tore the newspaper up and he folded it
I
all up, and,
know. Oh
and then
my
it comes back.
gosh.
Yeah, and
That
then he
was
opens it up and it's back to one piece again.
yeah. It doesn't even make sense how much talent he has.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, I hope this is received as a compliment, but he was the Zig Ziglar of telling leadership and sports stories. I mean, just his,
Oh yeah, he would take that as a compliment. He used to talk about Zig Ziglar all the time.
yeah,
You know, I think about Lou. One story in particular. And I had gone once he got the job. I went to the head football secretary and I told her name was Rita Reichert. I said, Rita, I said I know everything about this man more than anybody else on this staff that's here. I said I've studied him. I said so I'm a grad assistant coach. I want to learn from him, but at the same time, if he needs anything, I want to be the one that goes with him wherever he's got to go. Because I knew he was going to have to go recruit, and sure enough, I'd get to travel with him to different Gamecock Club meetings,
wow,
get to go with him when we would go recruit, whatever. So anyway, we're going to Greenwood, South Carolina for a Gamecock Club meeting. Usually he would drive. He was very controlling. He liked to drive.
yeah,
But this time he was not driving. I was driving because he had the entire back seat filled up with footballs, pictures, and everything. He was signing autographs
hmm.
for all these Gamecock Club members. And so I'm driving along. He's just signing away. And we were about 30 minutes away from being there, and he got done. He pulls out a manila folder, Ken, and it had his writing on every side of it, inside and out. And it was his philosophy of coaching.
Hmm.
And so he's just reading this to me as a young coach, and I'm thinking to myself, man, if I had a tape recorder or something, right now. And so when he got done, I asked him, I said, Coach, what are you going to do with that folder? He said, I'll just throw it away. He said, I just like to write stuff. I said, no, Coach, don't throw that away. Let me have that. So I still got it.
What I love most about him that stuck was he taught those young men character. Like
Oh, without a doubt.
if you
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
have if you didn't have integrity, you weren't playing.
You wasn't playing. That's right.
I wish that's the way, everybody was brought into football or any sport for that matter.
Well, and he summed it up. I heard him speak a few months back. He was talking about the players now versus the players back
Yep.
when he was in his heyday of coaching. And back then, he said the players felt like it was their responsibility.
Yep.
And now people feel like it's basically, what's owed to them,
Right.
So it's just a different mentality now.
Yeah, it is. From creating titles to being entitled.
That's exactly right. I rent a room with one of our agents, and his name is Brennan Armstrong. Brennan was the starting quarterback for the University of Virginia and for NC State. And Brennan actually holds records for the most yards in a single season when he was at UVA. It was over 5,000 yards in one season.
Hmm.
As a quarterback. Yeah, crazy, crazy numbers. But that's one thing that I would tell everybody listening right now that I talk about in this book is surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. If you want to be a millionaire, don't go hang out with bums on the corner of the street. Go hang out with other millionaires. You want to be a billionaire one day? Hang out with billionaires. Find out how they do it. I had a young guy, Ken, a few years ago. In fact, when I spoke down in Miami, I was telling you about that. But I was speaking down there, and this young guy comes up to me afterwards, and he was about 25. He says, Robbie, he says, when I turn 30, I'd like to be a millionaire. And when I'm 40, I'd like to be a billionaire. Can you give me any advice? And so I said, sure, I can give you some advice. I said, you got to do what billionaires do. He said, what's that? I said, well, you got to wake up at 4 o'clock every morning. I said, and when you wake up, I said, pray read whatever you got to do, go work out, make sure that you're in the office by 7:30 in the morning, work until about 12 at midnight. And when you're done, sleep for about 4 hours, get up and keep doing it the same thing, all week long. And he said, well, I can't do that. I've got to have my sleep. I said, well, how many hours of sleep you got to have? He says 8 hours a night. I said, well, eight hours out of 24, that's a third of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to sleep a third of your life away, I said, you said it was a dream for you to be a billionaire. I said, going back to sleep and keep on dreaming.
And if you become a billionaire, you can have that third back.
Yeah. Yeah. Now think about this. If you just make a few adjustments, because nobody needs 8 hours, you really don't. But if you can get it down to 6, okay. So that's just 2 extra hours a day, but that ends up being 2.5 days in a month that you've gained.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just so we're clear, those 2 extra hours can be meeting people like you, Robbie, or meeting Lou Holtz
Yeah.
and gain that edge that gets you in a fast track. It's
Think
not.
about this. Now, if you're getting 2.5 extra days a week, I mean, if you start thinking about that in a whole year, you're going to get a whole month extra that nobody else does.
Hey,
Now,
Robbie,
imagine if you get it down, you're only sleeping 4 hours like billionaires. Now you got 2 extra months a year.
no doubt, no doubt. I mean, I have this thing I tell people. I learned this from Dr. Greg Reed, and it was, hit your Rolodex, your phone, and spin it, spin it, and then stop and do 10. Say
Yeah,
just hello, have a good day. 10 times 365, that's 3,650 people you'll say hello to. You may not have ever said hello again.
right.
Just that little piece. I wanted to go back to Lou Holtz before we move on to the next thing.
Sure.
There was something, and I only met him one time. I had lunch or dinner with him at an event, and gosh, it is one of those times I might have hit record, but I don't know where it is. I think he is so recordable and playable, as in you would do so well if you heard him every day.
Right.
He is a Ziegler. But what he said, and I'm gonna need your help in this. He said to his football team, he said something to the effect of, "Be true to yourself, be true to your team, and do things that would make you proud, your team proud, and your country proud." Something like that. It,
Right.
it was
Well,
so it was so beautiful. Yeah, go
well, you
ahead.
got 3 rules that he lives by.
Yes,
Okay.
please. Yes.
Okay. Trust, commitment, and care.
Thank you.
First question he's going to ask. Okay. Well, let me go back. The 3 rules that he has. Rule number 1 is to do right.
Yes.
Right is right, wrong is wrong. Right
Right.
doesn't hurt anybody. It may make them mad at times, but right is right.
Yes.
If you do right, right will follow you.
Yep.
Okay, it's just 2 words, do right. Rule number 2, do your absolute very best, whether it's at sports, business, a relationship, a marriage, whatever it is, do your absolute very best. Because if you're doing your very best, it goes back to rule number 1, which is 2 words, do right. You're doing right. And then rule number 3, better known as the golden rule, treat other people the way you want to be treated. Okay.
Yep.
So, if you want to be treated with love, honor, and respect, make sure you're giving love, honor, and respect to everybody else. And if you're doing rule number 3, it really goes back to rule number 1 because you're doing right. So it's really just one rule, and it's do right, because there's 3 questions that Lou would always ask of all of us. And the first question is this: can I trust you?
Right. That's yeah.
Okay. Number 2, are you committed to excellence? Are you committed to being the absolute best that you possibly can be, striving for perfection, knowing that you will never achieve it, but you're striving for it? And then rule number 3, the third thing, do you care?
Mm-hmm.
Do you care? Do you care about me, coach, because I can run, hit, and tackle? Or do you care about me because, I just lost my grandma?
Yep.
I'm failing my math class right now,
Right.
and I need a little help right there. Do you care about that, or is it just what I can do for you on that football field? Because kids want to know that you're genuine. I don't care if it's kids 40 years ago or kids now; they still want to know you're genuine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was what amazing principles to lay down for the most winningest coach. There's nothing that says practice harder. It's about your character. It's about you taking pride. It's about you being, and caring is one of the most important things.
Oh, without a doubt. And I learned more from Coach Holtz in my 2 years of working with him there at USC than I probably ever did, under anybody else's tutelage. Simply because this guy, it was like a football clinic every day. Well, really, it was a life clinic. It
Yeah,
was a life
right.
clinic. Yeah.
So normally we've done the show whatever way we want to do it because it was just hitting the spirit. But I do want to say thank you to Dr. Renee Noor specifically, because you are a friend of hers and you've been a friend for quite some time. And I turned to you and you said, you are in the right place. You are in the right place. I mean,
Oh
you've been
yeah.
here for a while. So why don't you share about how you met her and how long you've known her and maybe one or two highlights?
So I've known Renee, I guess since 2013, so about 12 years now. I met her when I was actually campaigning the first time in Atlanta.
Hmm.
And Renee, of course, she's connected with pretty much everybody. I don't want to just say in Atlanta or in Georgia. She's really connected with
Oh, yeah.
everybody around the world. And so I realized real quick that I needed to make friends with her, and I did. And then all of a sudden, she had me speaking at all these different events, standing up in front of thousands and thousands of people, and just being able to share my heart and my vision for this country. And I was like, this lady right here. And then whenever she would do her own events, they were first class. I
Yeah.
mean, completely first class. In fact, the one right before this past one was at the Chateau Elan. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Chateau Elan outside of Atlanta.
Yep.
Okay.
I've never been there, but I've heard of it. Yes, sir.
It's a winery, but it's a five-star hotel, and they got the whole ballrooms and everything. And she had this big event there, and it was an award ceremony, and I was actually I received an award that night, and it was quite an honor. But I'm telling you, anything that Renee does, if she says she's doing it, I'm telling her I'm going to be there.
Well, it's interesting that she is so statuesque. I mean, she's a
Right,
very tall woman. She wears heels just to let people know that she's not afraid of her height, and
right,
she has a voluptuous mane of hair. But
right.
sure does seem to like our haircut a lot. I'm telling you. Do you recall how many of the men had our haircut? I mean,
Well,
it
I
was
did
over half.
notice Skip,
It was
Skip Newton, lead singer for Kool and the Gang.
and has
He
been.
was almost like us.
He's getting there. I mean, he's a hippie with a one clip.
Well, yeah, yeah. But you know what? Here's the thing. You guys talk about being bald now. I don't know if I'm really bald. I shave mine. I could grow a head full of hair if I wanted to.
Well, I had a perm just yesterday, just so we're
Oh
clear.
yeah, yeah, I got you. Okay.
No, my son, he sometimes he'll say, well, he's 12 now, so he doesn't do this anymore. But when he was under 10, he'd feel, he go, Daddy, you got a choice. You can go all the way. And I go, I promise it's not even in all spots.
There you go. Right.
Yeah. So I just noticed though the amount of men that spoke, how many of them represented the authothon or
Yeah.
the clean cut.
Yeah, it is. And it's a true testament, I think, to men these days, that especially the ones that are confident.
Yeah.
uh, Hair means nothing. If you're truly confident, you don't have to hide behind anything. And here's another thing that I'll say: don't let my confidence insult your insecurity.
Right. Amen to
I
that.
say that. I'll say I got that from Deion Sanders, but it's so true. Don't let my confidence insult your
Well,
insecurity.
actually, let's talk about a conversation we had just briefly in the show. Not we don't have to
Sure.
go too deep, but it was an important conversation because after we complimented each other on a great haircut and a great smile, we went to Dallas and we went big. We went America's team, and I had shared with you. I'm not as big a fan as you are, but we only voted on one team in the '70s when we were in Germany, and that was the only team we could see on TV, the Dallas
Right.
Cowboys, and
Dallas Cowboys.
it was Starbuck days, and it was
Tony Dorsett.
yeah, Tornado set. Yep. And
And it
Landry. And of
was
course, Landry. And of course, Landry.
it was Robert Newhouse.
Yes, exactly.
I,
So
I recruited his son, by the way.
did you really?
Yeah.
Well, we both commented kind of a Lou Holtz tangent about how Landry and how he recruited a person like Starbuck, the character
Right.
and the work ethic and it doesn't matter if we're 4 touchdowns behind.
Didn't matter.
Did not matter.
No.
It was still a game that we're going to play all the way.
And if you take the great ones, whether it was Roger Staubach, Fran Tarkington, Kenny Stabler from those days, Terry Bradshaw,
Yep.
even to today's day, such as Tom Brady. Uh, if you look at the intangibles within all of them, it didn't matter. A winner is a winner.
Right.
Okay. And if you've got a winner like Tim Tebow, that's a winner. If I had been a head coach in the NFL, Tim Tebow would still be playing. Okay. Because he won.
Yes. Yeah, and it's something about that mentality is that it brings the whole team together to
Right.
play at a level they've never experienced.
Let me show you one more. Okay.
Do.
So when I coached at USC, this is one that I coached. Okay. That's Anthony Wright. Went on. He was the starting quarterback for the Cowboys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was right after Troy Aikman had had retired. So, I was real blessed to be able to work with a lot of guys. In fact, about 26 that went on and played in the NFL.
It went back a little crooked, if that
It's
matters.
so crooked. Okay.
Well, I'm doing that for you because I know that you care.
I do care. There we go. Very good.
So I'd like you to take a little 2-minute tangent here.
Sure.
You talked about an airplane ride
Yeah.
with the man.
With Roger.
Yes, with Roger Staubach. And you had a great conversation that I don't want to steal any of the thunder, but you were proving to him that you were the biggest fan. So go ahead and do that, sir.
Yeah, so I was coming back from LA and I had a layover there in Dallas and it was like a 6 a.m. flight. So I'm half asleep sitting there at the gate waiting on the next plane. Get on the plane and then I look up and this guy is sitting down next to me and it's Roger Staubach, my hero as a kid. He sits down and I don't want to go crazy because I know how celebrities can be. They're like, oh man, here we go again, that type thing. They just want to be left alone. So I just sat here like this and I kind of looked at him. I said, how you doing, my hero? He goes, Cowboy fan? I said, yep. I said, since I was 7 years old. And I said, and you are my hero. He says, prove it. I said, okay, I'll prove it. So when I was a little kid, I said, you were playing in the Super Bowl against Denver Broncos. I said, y'all were winning the game. I said, and you had the ball, you were getting ready to score, but you left the game and went through the tunnel. You had broken your pinky finger and it was crooked. They showed it on TV. And I remember bawling my eyes out as a little kid thinking that my hero was done for the night and that the Cowboys were going to lose the Super Bowl because you were not able to play. I said, but you came back in that game. You had both those fingers, those two fingers right there taped together, and you threw two more touchdown passes, and y'all beat the Broncos. And he goes, yeah, but it hurt. He
That was
says,
a tough
okay.
game.
He says, okay, I believe you.
That was a tough game. And I love what you said afterwards, even though he was your hero, that you.
Yeah. So Ken, I did. I said, Roger, I said, I've got to admit something to you. He said, what's that? I said, well, you're my number two all-time favorite Cowboy. You're not number one. And he looked real puzzled. He said, I thought I was your hero. I said, you are my hero. I said, but you're not number one. You're number two. He said, well, who's number one for you? I said, well, Roger. I said, I'm a coach. I said, my number one Cowboy is your number one Cowboy. And he started smiling. He said, Coach Landry. I said, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of guy that you can just get emotional if he just walks around a stadium, forget about a room.
Oh, yeah. Well, Coach Landry, Coach Paul Bear Bryant, and Coach Bobby Bowden were three men that inspired me to actually go into coaching.
Hmm.
And of course, my high school coach and my college coach also. But as far as ones that I watched all the time on TV as a little kid, those three. In fact, when I was 12 years old, went to my first college game. My father, uh, he was pastor, but he also had his private pilot's license, and we flew up to Tuscaloosa to Bryant-Denny Stadium, and we were watching Alabama play Ole Miss. And we were sitting up in the nosebleeds in the end zone. And so Alabama, their first team offense comes out. They score the first two times they got the ball. It's 14-0. Coach Bryant puts the second team in. They score the first two times they got the ball. It's 28-0. And so he puts his third string in. It's like 42-0 at halftime. And the announcer comes over the PA system. He says, all JVs report to the locker room. They played the JVs the entire second half of that game. So I remember late in the game, and they're walloping. They're putting a hurting on Ole Miss. And I looked down on the field, and I looked at my dad. I said, I want to do that one day. He says, you want to play football at Alabama? I said, no, I want to do what he's doing. And I pointed at the man with the houndstooth hat on. He says, you want to coach? I said, yeah. He says, well, if that's what you want to do, you can do it. Everybody else around there laughing and everything, because I'm just a little 12-year-old kid. He said, well, if that's what you want to do, you can do it. And you know what? I did. I did it. And I actually had a chance to coach in that stadium against Alabama.
Well, we're going to take a hop skip, young man,
Okay.
from coaching to your pursuit to become a president, but we're going to do it with along the lines of two other topics, if you don't mind.
Sure. Sure.
So I noticed you had discrimination and lies as one of your chapters. And what I'm in disbelief is you're telling me that there's such a thing as discrimination. And has anyone ever lied to you? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I definitely went through it. We've talked about the highs and the lows of life, going through
Mhm.
the mountaintop experience and the deep valleys. And I've had my share of both. And I think the true mark of a champion is not when he actually is sitting on top of the mountain with the trophy in his hand. The true mark of that champion is how hard he can hit and keep moving forward, how hard of a punch he can take and keep moving forward. I took a major, major punch back in early 2010. And, my career was about done anyway. I knew that I was going to get into politics, but this really kind of sped it up just a little bit. And I talk about it. People say, well, that's really crazy that you had to go through all that. And I know that it's bad and this, that, and the other. I said, well, you know what? I look at it as a blessing now.
Mhm.
And here's why. Because if I hadn't have gone through that, I wouldn't be where I am right now with what I am doing. Because I'm one of those now, I'm very strong, Ken, in my faith. Whether you are or whether you're not, let me talk to you a little bit. I truly believe, as Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for the good for those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. I know I love God. And I know that I am called according to his purpose. And I try my best to be obedient in everything I do. So no matter what seems to be happening, and in man's eyes, it may look really, really bad, I know in the end it's going to work out. And it did.
Well, tell the audience what happened with the discrimination.
Well, I had gone to Savannah State and made history when I took that job. Savannah State is a historically black college and Division I school at the time. They've dropped back to Division II now, but at the time they were an NCAA Division I black college. And I made a history when I actually took that job as the very first white head football coach to do that across the entire country.
Mhm.
And uh, my mentor, it was so crazy. My mentor was a fellow by the name of Willie Jeffries, and Willie had coached at Howard. He had coached at uh, South Carolina State a couple of times, but he had also been the very first African American to be a Division I head football coach at Wichita State. So he and I became friends when I was coaching at South Carolina State. He mentored me, actually helped me get that job at Savannah State. I had two really, really good years there. Enjoyed my time working there. We won more games there than they had in the previous 10 years before I got there. And then I was let go. I was let go because of racial discrimination that a federal judge, found that, you know, that's exactly what happened. And the school was ordered to pay me restitution in the form of a financial settlement and a joint press conference where we all came back, and it says the lies in there, where everything was put out on the table, and they had to come clean that I had done things the right way and that we wished everybody well, and then we went on our separate ways. And then literally 2 hours later is when I announced I was running for president for the first time.
Wow. Do you think I would have been connected?
Say again.
Do you think that would have happened?
It would have. I would have gotten into politics, yeah, by now. It may have hadn't have happened right then. I may have waited about 4 or 5 years, but
But that
you
4 or 5 years could have cost you the experiences of what you're doing to keeping true to how you win, right? Isn't that
right, right, exactly. Because I'm a winner.
right?
I get in things to win. It may take me longer than it takes somebody else, but understand this, Ken. Okay, it's not over until I win.
Hmm. Right.
That's the way I look at it. I've seen other candidates in the presidential runs. They've come, they've gone, um, and they've gone back into their private lives or whatever. But that's why I'm telling you about 2028. I'm not ready to make that announcement yet. But if you were a betting man out in Vegas, you should bet on Robby Wells.
Well, Robbie, I already I already know it is the bet to make, and because your language is that I coach and I win, I lead, I win, I don't get defeated because I learn and I win,
Right.
and you remind me a little bit about my message with publishing. If you have a book and it didn't make it, that's not it. That's just
Right.
practice. That's a practice.
Right.
And, I just commend you for not only making a book, but just how big you play every single time you step on stage. I mean,
Oh, thank
that,
you.
that, that time you had on stage at Las Vegas, you woke that crowd up.
Well, that's what needed to happen, though. And it's funny. You remember I just told you about how if things aren't going the way you expected them to go, don't sweat it.
Right.
Because if you are in tune with the one above, with your creator, he's going to work it out for you. Here's what happened at that event. I had to leave that event by 8:30 that evening to get to the airport to fly back. And my booking agent, her flight was the same time. She was going back to LA. I was coming back to the East Coast. And so the event was supposed to start at 7, but it didn't start till 8. So
Mm.
we had literally 30 minutes until I had to go. Well, she had this other author speak first, and so my booking agent, she's all like, "What are we going to do? You've come this far, and you've come across the country, and you're not going to get to speak, and this, that, and that." I said, "No." I said, "It's going to work out. It's going to be just fine." So literally, I was called up on stage. I think there was about 7 minutes until I had to leave. In fact, I told her, I said, "We're going to wait 15 extra minutes." I said, "We'll make it." I said, "We're going to go till 8:45." So literally, I got on the stage at 8:38 and had just a couple of minutes to actually speak. So I was like, "Dear God, just give me the words to speak. Let your light shine through me, and let me bring it real fast so people will not forget it. And let me move on and keep on walking in obedience." And that's what I did. And I had what, maybe 2, 3 minutes.
4 or 5 tops. But I want to say something to you. You had shared your challenge, your predicament
Yeah,
early that day with me. And that night I was very aware it was getting to be bigger of a
yeah.
challenge. And you never got to see me play the card I was going to play for you, but I was going to yield my time so that you could speak on my stead because I knew that yours was finite and mine was not.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But when we got done,
Yeah.
of course, my booking agent, her name's Bo Benton, by the way. I call her my ace in the hole. She's worked with my campaign for about 10 years. She's awesome. She's also a singer-songwriter, but she actually made really good friends with Skip Newton of Cool in the Gang there.
That's right.
And so we're in the car and we're heading to the airport. And she had been all worried and everything. She said, "That was incredible. That was so good. Your speech, this, that, and the other." I said, "Well, Bo, I want you to think about something." She said, "What's that?" I said, "If we hadn't have been short on time like that, it probably wouldn't have been a speech like that."
That's right.
I said, "And if we hadn't have been running late, you wouldn't have had all that time that you could get over there and mix and mingle with Skip and get to know him. And now they're probably going to collaborate and do some songs together."
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
I want to give a shout out to her because she was very powerful. She is very powerful.
Yep, that's Bo.
That's her.
That is Bo Benton.
And she is something to reckon with.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, she's a force. I mean, you can see when someone is the energy. If you read energy or you feel it, she's really formidable.
Oh yeah, yes, she is.
Yeah, I mean, when I do a smile shot with most people, they're like, "Guide me." She was like, "I got this."
She's got it. She's got that. That's for sure.
All right, well, let's pivot a little bit. We're getting closer to the finale, as it were. But
Okay.
politics, president, um, problems, all P's. Politics, presidents, problems. So, what I know that we could go an hour, we go even possibly 4 or 5 hours on all the things, but what is something, one or two things that you want to see in your leadership and why you will not quit to be president so that you can actually see the America that you want to deliver back?
Well, let's talk about politics, presidents, and problems. Politics and presidents usually are the problem. Let's just keep it real. I
How
mean,
clever! How clever!
yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, and one thing I will say is, no matter who's president, whether they're a Democrat, Republican, whatever, I try to be fair. If they do something good, I'm going to tell you they did something good. If they do something bonehead, I'm going to tell you that too.
Right.
But I truly believe that we've been missing the boat to be the true United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
United. See, I've always believed, Ken, that whether you were black or white, young or old, male or female, a member of the LGBTQ community, whatever your religion may be, we're all very unique in this country. And we can celebrate our differences because we have one common bond. We are all Americans. And it's time for us to lay aside our differences. It's time for us to start working together, hand in hand and side by side. And it's time for us to stare down the fear of our differences with the face of courage.
Hmm.
I've taken a strong stand. And as I go across, as you see my slogan here, and it's with my business, it's with been with my campaign, whatever. I've taken a strong stand. I just want people to rise up with me.
What do you see is a really, I guess I don't want to say a dumb problem, but just a problem that's just why do we have this problem anymore?
Okay, this is one of the big ones. And of course, let's go back. I was in education for 20 years. Um, I do have a great plan that'll solve a lot of problems with our educational system. We went ranked 36th in the world in education right now. That's not good enough.
No.
We're not going to be good enough until we're number one. So we need to be educating our kids at a younger age to a later age, which means we need to have universal child care all the way to free college tuition, all the way to a bachelor's degree. Why is it that it's okay to have free education up to 12th grade, but not any further? Do you know why?
It's a racket, is my guess.
Well, it is a racket, but it's because the elites want to stay elite.
Hmm.
The elites want to stay elite, and the system was set up over 100 years ago, where you got a free education to a high school diploma. Well, back then, a husband and wife with a high school diploma could have two kids. The husband could work one job. She could stay home and tend to the house. That's her job. And everything was fine and everything was good. And they could make it as a middle class family. Well,
Right.
times have progressed and you can't do that now. You just can't. So if you've got to have these degrees, why is it that we've got to go to the federal government and take out loans that the federal government actually profits on?
Hmm.
These student loans. That's not right. That's
No.
not right. So my plan would not only eliminate the student loan debt, but it would make college education free. It would increase teacher pay, universal child care. But if you really want to talk about one of the main problems that I want to deal with, let's talk about gun violence in schools.
Before you go there, I just have
Okay,
one more,
sure.
and this is so important because it's so smart that you're saying this about free education or at least affordable education. And I
Right.
want to I want to give you just mad props right now. My son is only 12. He
Yeah.
announced only a day or two ago during the Labor Day weekend we just had, I'm not going to college. Why would I want to be in debt? And by the way, he's finished at the top of his school, not the top of his class. He's a
Right.
seventh grader. He finished at number one in his school in math.
Right.
But he's saying, why would I want to get all these loans and be in debt for the rest of my life? That's how
Right.
smart a kid can be at 12.
Well, and that's the message that's coming out right now. I mean, you're looking at student loan debt being at $1.6 trillion right now.
Exactly.
That's an albatross around every young person's neck. In fact, my student loan just a year and a half ago was paid off. I mean, I mean, literally just a year and a half ago, I finally got it paid off. So, that's a major problem. But now let's talk about your son,
Mhm.
because when he goes to school every day, I know in the back of your mind, you got to be thinking and you got to be praying, dear God, put a hedge of protection around my
Yeah,
children
exactly.
because of the gun violence that we've seen. Well, let me just tell you this. I think back to Sandy Hook. I was driving in my car in Charlotte, North Carolina, back in December 2012 when that occurred. And um, I got a tear in my eye because I realized that could have been my class, that could have been my students, it could have been one of my colleagues and their students. And so anytime I've seen a major problem like that, Ken, I take a pause and I step back and see if there's anything that I can come up with that's going to actually help the situation. And I did. I came up with a good plan. My plan is called Vets for Kids. We can protect every kid in every school and eliminate the gun violence. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to take our unemployed veterans, we're going to screen them, we are going to train them, and then we're going to place them back to work in every school across this country as guardians for our children. It's going to protect not only the children, it's going to not only uh, provide over 500,000 jobs to our veterans that laid it on the line for you and for me, but it's also going to protect, it will protect everyone's Second Amendment rights, because we are not trying to take away any guns right here. We're not. We're just trying to protect our most valuable asset, which is the people of this country, and the most valuable asset of the people is our youth because they are the future. Because think about it, up at Sandy Hook or any of these other schools, go to Aurora, go down to Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. We don't know. There could have been someone that was gunned down that was going to come up with a cure for AIDS,
Yep.
come up with a cure for cancer. Okay, but now we'll never know.
Agreed. Do you recall the show that went maybe 1 year, maybe 1.5 years, Hassan Minaj Patriot Act by chance?
No.
Hassan Minaj might just want to. This is really for our viewers, I guess. He did the Patriot Act. Let's see here, Patriot Act.
It's probably a spinoff on the actual USA Patriot Act that was put in
It
place
is.
back in 2001, right after 9/11.
I really enjoyed his, and um, he talked about some of the topics you're talking about. How there's so much debt because it's a racket of how kids takes out some loans and then they're basically an indentured servant for 20 years. They can't even get out of it.
Yeah,
And when they miss payments, the degree of penalty is exponential.
that's exactly right. It's just really unbelievable the racket that has been put in place. And I want to say this is why, so that the elite can keep a thumb on the rest of the middle class and below in this country, which is 99% of our country.
It is. I laughed, I don't know, it was probably 3, 4 months ago about Estonia. They said, well, let me get my taxes done. It's 555 right now. Okay, 556. I'm done. It's a paperless, you pay the percentage of what you pay and you just
Right,
do it and it's done and it comes right out of your account, but boom. And
right.
I'm not saying they're the number one country in the world, but there are some countries that you did say we're number 36. When I was teaching physics and chemistry in PG County, we were number 39 and 41 in math and science. So we
Right.
we are progressing a little bit there,
A
but
little bit, a
but
little bit.
well, we have a long way to go. And it's funny, but the people that hate our immigrants are technically a lot of the immigrants going into colleges are making our job market stronger and also bringing some real clout to our science and math scores.
Oh, especially those students that come over from India.
Yes.
They come over in the engineering
Well, India,
degrees.
Asia, Nigeria. Oh, I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
those just like pop
absolutely.
right up. And so, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned school and the violence. They're both things that you scratch your head and say, just and I brought it to you, and I just want to know what you were going to say when I said this is a dumb problem to have. We're a number one country that could be number one in the most important part, which is using their brain.
Well, if you think about Doge, think about President Trump. I mean, I think it's wonderful that he found all this wasteful spending and all this corruption that was going on, over $1 trillion worth, right? Imagine if that $1 trillion that they found was just taken to eliminate student loan debt.
Right. 100%. And this is not a political show. And you say one thing
Yeah.
politically, you can lose half your audience. But I do want to say that when Warren Buffett says, yeah, these are some good actions to take because of the waste, there's something to say for that's a smart man saying there's some smart moves happening. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're talking about Warren Buffett. I mean, and the cool thing about Warren Buffett is this, he is the true example of it's never over.
right.
He didn't get rich until he was older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. So, when do you think you're going to declare what's going to be the point that makes you say it?
It'll be, Ken, it'll be sometime next year. Let me tell you what we're doing. As I'm speaking around the country right now, we're taking a litmus test from basically everybody in the audience to find out exactly if they're with us or if they're kind of with us or if they're not. And one thing that I would like to do, which would really change the way that campaign finance is done, you see all these different candidates, they ask for donations, but they call them donations, but those donations are not tax deductible
Hmm.
in politics. They're not. So instead of doing that, what I would like to do is empower over 1 million Americans. If I can empower 1 million Americans to even the playing field for themselves and their families, how? I'm going to do it opposite of Donald Trump. He did it through real estate. I'm going to do it through life insurance because I'm a life insurance agent and broker. We want 1 million people across this country to empower themselves and do it through the Rise Up agency. And if they will do that, they never have to donate to this campaign. They will empower themselves, and then I'll fund this campaign myself. And we'll go all the way to Washington, and we won't be the left wing. We won't be the right wing. We'll be the bird that sits in the middle, and we're going to soar all the way to 1600.
Eaglenomics.
That's Eaglenomics, left wing, right wing.
Yeah.
Best of the left, best of the right.
It's interesting that you bring up, and again, my show is just not political. It is
Right.
it's leadership. It is pro America, and it's pro world. Just so we're clear, it is a positive show, and I pick people like yourself because I like what you're saying to bring the world together.
Right.
And your litmus test speaks to, Kamala Harris is not a bad person. She had good intention, and she didn't do a proper litmus test because they thought it was a close race, and it was not a close race because her litmus test was not tested well enough, that we just had some problems in demographics, and we had some problems. We had to bring, and Trump really hit a home run when he said people are hurting.
Yeah.
If you don't address where people are hurting, how can you get them to hear?
Well, if you're not addressing where they're hurting, how are you helping?
100%. And she had a short takeoff area to get to where she needed to go, and so it wasn't predictable, I guess. But it's funny. Your litmus test is so powerful and important because you will hear how you can help.
Yeah, so that's going to be our litmus test as I go across this country speaking over the next year. Everywhere we go, we're going to give people the chance to empower themselves and get the coverage to even the playing field with the elite. Okay, It evens the playing field, and if they will do that, okay, we're not going to ask for donations. Okay, but if they will do that, we know that we're on to something, and we need to pursue running for president in 2028.
Yeah, and just to make this more of a logical, commonsensical point, it's like either being the coach of a football team or the new principal of a school, and you're only focused on scoring higher in the grades, but you don't care if kids are getting killed.
Right.
And you're missing the boat.
Missing the boat.
You have to take care of both pieces.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So, is there anything I didn't ask that you'd like to talk about?
No, I think we've covered politics, we've covered sports, we've covered God, we've covered everything, man.
Well, the one thing we haven't covered is the programming of Robby Wells. And my hypothesis, and I've been doing this for about 600 shows, is when you ask very poignant, quick questions, and you have to get a very fast answer, and about 5 questions that have to do with what drives you.
Yep.
What drives you. People can say, well, gosh, if Robby Wells does these 5 things, or if he feels and does this, I'm going to do this so I can be more like Rob. In other words, for you to be more like Coach Holtz, you'd have to find out maybe what his favorite book is. Get me? All right. So here we go. So I'm going to ask you quick questions. If you give me a quick answer with maybe 1 sentence or 2 elaboration, but no more, we go to the next question. Ready?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. A book that changed your life.
Winning Every Day, Lou Holtz.
Hey, go on. That was too easy.
It was too easy. I told you, but you brought it up.
Yes, indeed. That's so funny, isn't it? All right. A movie that inspires you.
The Cinderella Man.
God.
Russell Crowe.
I watch that every year.
Yeah. He's comeback kid, just like myself.
Yep.
Goes against all odds, ends up winning the crown.
That's one of those movies I wouldn't mind knowing the script perfect. I mean, It's such a gorgeous script. Braddock. And what I love is when the movie's over, they talk about the greatness he creates after the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Building the Verrazano Bridge?
Yep. And just becoming a successful construction and business person. All right, number 3. What song gets you going?
I Will Run. And that's by Tasha Cobbs. I listen to that song every time before I hit the stage and speak. It's a gospel song that she sings, but it's about being obedient, and it's about running towards God. And it's a song that's really, really spoke to me over the past few years. So I listen to it every time before I speak.
I don't know why this didn't come up earlier, but I am inviting you formally on the air to the International Smile-a-thon, which is October 3rd and 4th. You are going to speak for one of the 100 leaders in the United States, and we're inviting any leader from another country, 1 leader per country, to speak about how a smile brings the world together. So I just want I did not make that invitation formal. I want to do that now.
And I accept your invite.
Thank you. Who's your hero?
My hero, my father.
Who would you like to
Well,
meet?
and I've got two.
Okay,
I've
go
got
ahead.
two fathers. Okay, can I talk about both of them real quick? It's
Yeah.
going to be more than three sentences.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so my adopted father was a minister. I saw him treat my mother like a queen every day of his life. I saw him have a deep impact on thousands and thousands of lives. He actually marched with Dr. King as a white minister in West Alabama
Hmm.
several years before I was born. That's courage, courage doing what's right, even if it's not popular. Like character, same thing. So he's definitely my hero, but also my hero would have to be my birth father. My birth father was a World War II paratrooper. He actually jumped into Normandy and fought Hitler.
Hmm.
I'm very, very fortunate to be here because half of those men did not come back. In fact, the Rise Up logo comes from four fathers. Okay, you see the flame right there? That signifies my birth father. Okay, Ralph Corky Stewart. Okay. You see the little V right here? That's actually the last EKG of my best friend's father when he passed away. Then you're going to see Faith Fight Finish. That was my father on his deathbed telling me that he wanted me to have the faith to continue to finish his fight for equal rights for everybody in this country. And then Rise Up, my heavenly father. Rise up is what Jesus told the paralyzed man to rise up, take up your mat, and walk. Well, I think that we're a paralyzed world right now. We've let a lot of things bog us down, and we need some serious-minded people that's going to get in front of all the people and say, "Hey, it's time to rise up."
Well, a true professional doesn't break a rule. They ask if the rule can be amended. And you say, can I go more than three sentences? And those were good over three sentences.
Thank you.
Who would you like to meet you haven't met?
That's a good one. Um, I've met a lot of presidents, but I haven't met President Trump. I don't agree with him on everything. Some of the things I do, I'd like to meet the president.
Yeah.
And it would be great to be able to take one of my goals is to take a limo ride with him on January 20th, 2029,
Yeah.
because the outgoing president and incoming president would ride in a limo together to the inauguration.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And oh, by the way, I don't usually say this on the record, but since there's been so many politics on this show, I do want to say something more for
Sure.
the audience than yourself.
Sure.
I want to say I'm an independent, and I say that proudly because I say I vote for the man, not the party.
Right.
What if the man was on the wrong party? Do you not vote for him?
Well, that's a good question. I've run as an independent. I've run as a Democrat.
Yeah,
You definitely have a better chance with the way that the game is set
I
up
know,
in
I
the United
know.
States.
And you know you don't
Picking
get to
sides.
and you don't get to vote primary, and I get all that. But my point is when everyone tells me that they are a staunch whatever, I say, what if he was on the other side, or what if she was on the other side? And they're puzzled. And I go, that's what an independent gets. They get to swing to the right person.
Right. Well, and from a candidate standpoint, I've run seeking the Democratic Party's nomination as an independent, kind of like Bernie Sanders has done before.
Yep.
And if I do run again, it would probably be the same way.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. And I think if I recall, Lincoln was Republican.
He was.
And I do think that Trump started Democrat, if I recall.
Yes, he did. And he actually also, back in the 80s, he briefly ran for president for the Reform Party nomination for only a couple of weeks, and then he dropped out.
Yeah.
Nobody really talks about that, but he did.
Well, I want to get a little political at the end with this is not about politics, it's about leadership.
Sure.
It's about leadership. All right. My final question, sir, is what quote do you live by?
What quote do I live by? Easy. You ready for this one?
I am.
Let your drive determine your destination.
Beautiful. Beautiful. How can people reach you, contact you, celebrate you, and support you, sir?
Easiest way is to go on the website because you can get my phone number there. You can get all the links to social media, but the website is riseupwithrobby.com. Riseupwithrobby, ROBBY.com.
And take a gander at this. This
Yeah.
is available on Amazon. We're saying our prayers like he did to work with Holtz that we get to work with him. All right. This is Ken Rochon on Dr. Smiley Show. we amplify goodness. And Robby Wells is certainly a person that I'm very proud to know as a friend, and more importantly, someone I'd like to support as a leader. Thank you so much, Robby Wells.
Thank you, Ken.